The Xbox Keystone has been revealed. Mostly. The Xbox Keystone is a piece of hardware that has, I don't want to say only lived in our hopes and dreams, because it did, or still does, physically exist, but Microsoft has opted not to ship the product. But thanks to some patents, we now have basically a 360-degree look at this piece of hardware that, for the most part, you will probably never be able to touch or hold, which makes you a little sad. However, we have kind of seen it in the flesh here. So Phil Spencer, if you go back in time, has a shelf, and this shelf has lots of gaming things, and that thing in the top center there, that little white box, that is the Xbox Keystone. We don't know what they were going to call it. Xbox Series Streamer. The Xbox Streamer. We don't really know. We never got that marketing material. However, this had been the best look at the physical hardware up until this patent was found over by the folks over at Windows Central. So this is the front of the Xbox Keystone. Now, this is a little device. Remember, it's important to keep in mind, what was this thing supposed to do? It was supposed to allow you to connect basically straight to their game streaming platform and stream this device directly to your TV or other, monitor, I guess, or any other device. So looking at this thing here, and this is probably one of the better looks, I guess, if you will, shows off the sort of profile of the device. Now, yes, it is a white square. There's no denying that. However, I think it's fair to say, you can see some influence from other Xboxes out there, like the Xbox Series S. So that on top, that circle is likely going to be ventilation, which everybody here will know, at least watching this will know, hey, that's very similar to the Xbox Series S. It's very similar. That's not a big leap there. And then starting on the left side, you can see the Xbox button, which was most likely the power. The square port on the front was a USB-A, and then that little dot there on the sort of bottom right side, if you will, of the patent, that would be the button that you press to connect your Xbox controller to the device. And it's interesting to me how this is not an Xbox per se, but you can kind of feel like it looks like an Xbox. And especially when you sort of go to the underside, because there's more sort of heritage, if you will. So first off, that bottom round part, that is very much like the bottom of an Xbox Series S, right? Or X, I should say. Bottom of an X. So that's the round rubber disc on the bottom of the X. And it looks like they were using that same round rubber disc here on the bottom of the Keystone. You can also see the ventilation holes are very similar, and they might be a slightly different diameter. But there's the Xbox Series X ethos sort of on the bottom, and on top you've got the Series S. So at the end of the day, it did feel like an Xbox, if you will, although it only did streaming. Now the ports on the back are pretty straightforward. You have Ethernet, which would obviously allow you to connect to Ethernet. I'm guessing there would also be Wi-Fi internal. Then you're going to have a power port is going to be on the back there as well. And of course, you're going to need HDMI. And then the ventilation holes, which are going to help that thing keep itself cool, calm, and collected. Now, this device obviously never made it out to retail establishments, and you could never buy it. One of the reasons for this is that it was supposed to be targeted at about $99 or $99 is what Phil Spencer previously said. And Microsoft, they just couldn't bring it all together for that price point. We don't know what is actually running inside this device. That is one of the mysteries that we still don't know. And I don't know if we will ever fully know the actual hardware components in there, right? I can't imagine that it's running anything super high power. All it needs to be able to do is just connect up to the cloud or Microsoft's cloud gaming service, pull that down, and it should be relatively low power at the end of the day. The one thing I would super duper love to know is what was the OS that was running on this thing, right? That is one thing that we don't really know. We know that it would be running some sort of the Xbox OS, we would think, right? In reality, it just kind of needs to be a web browser. And maybe this is where the narrative starts to sort of unravel, if you will, because on the Xbox Series X or S, I should say, right? The OS is running, I believe it's a slimmed down version of Windows, but it's running a hypervisor that is the Xbox OS that we think of the Xbox dashboard. To bring that back to something this size, Maybe there was more hardware needed internally than we ever really thought about, because like part of my brain is like, just slap a Raspberry Pi in there. You just need an internet connection and a very basic browser, and then you should be good to go. Now Raspberry Pi isn't the perfect example, but you guys know what I mean, like something super lightweight. But when you start to think about, okay, well, it needs to run the Xbox dashboard if that's the OS that they ran, so then they need maybe something a little bit beefier. And then all of a sudden that $99 price point doesn't really make sense. And where I think it really starts to kind of fall apart, if you will, is like if you need to buy a controller with this thing. So if it was $99 with a controller bundled, that is one thing. But if it was $99 and then you needed a controller, you can say, but Brad, I already have a controller. I didn't need to buy one. Yeah, that's great. But if it's Christmas time and mom is trying to pick something up, the latest console for their kid, and they all of a sudden they're $150 in, I don't think that's a super great value prop at the end of the day here for this device. So it's interesting to sort of see what is going on here. Now, there's some other things that I think are worth pointing out here. Obviously, this thing has not come to market. However, it does, and maybe I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments below, it does feel like Microsoft has sort of pulled back, if you will, from their cloud gaming narrative, right? Go back 2-3 years, especially before Activision, it was all like cloud gaming is the future. We're going to make cloud gaming work. And all of a sudden, it's not really there. So much so that when Microsoft was closing Activision to appease the overlords of the various regulatory bodies, one of the things they kind of sacrificed was cloud gaming by giving Call of Duty rights to Ubisoft for their cloud streaming stuff, along with other Activision Blizzard titles. And so to me, it feels like Microsoft has really sort of pulled back from cloud gaming. And I'm not sitting here trying to say like cloud gaming is going away forever. Microsoft has completely given up. That is really not the narrative that I'm trying to push here. It just feels like it's sort of not a priority anymore. And to me, the cloud gaming was always best served for like, hey, jump into a title and just see if you want to download it sort of experience. And that's kind of been my use case with it for the past while. I don't really play on mobile devices all that much. And so when you think about that, and then you kind of think about like where Microsoft is headed today, it just seems like this device never really fit into the modern Xbox that we know as of right now. However, I really like what, it's sad we'll never see this thing. However, these patent images, I just really like what Xbox has done here, because like I was noting how it looks like the Series S and the Series X. This device looks distinctly Xbox. Like they've done a good job for taking just a simple square. They've made it look like an Xbox. And so, you know, when you put all these patent images together, you can kind of see the whole box here for the device that will probably never ship in any meaningful way. The one other thing that we really haven't seen take off either, and I'm not really sure where this stands as of right now. Remember, there was a lot of talk of like, hey, Xbox Cloud Gaming is just going to be built into TVs. I think there was some Samsung that had it. But again, that narrative has once again really kind of like suppressed. And it seems like Xbox is going in a different direction, which further sort of hits the punctuation point of why this device may not ever see the market. I don't know. Would you guys buy this sort of thing? Like, is this something that people are genuinely interested in? I don't know. And I say that optimistically or open-endedly. I'm not trying to push people one way or another. I'm just trying to rationalize how Team Xbox got to this point and why it's not shipping based on the information that has been presented. It's worth pointing out that this patent, by the way, was from 2022. So this is not, it's super new. And I think Microsoft and Xbox have really just gone a different direction. Many of us think that they are going in the direction of the handheld, right? That is sort of like maybe they had a choice. Are we going to build this streaming device, or will we be better off building a handheld? And there's a pretty valid question. Remember, it's important to keep in mind in the back of your head, Microsoft's objective is to sell more Game Pass subscriptions. That is their goal. So the question becomes, which is going to be more likely to sell Game Pass subscriptions, building out this box or building a handheld? I don't know. On the surface, you might say, well, the streaming box might be because that's the only way you can play games and more people might buy it. However, I think there's some pent-up demand, even though I am not super in favor of a handheld. I think there is more demand for a handheld gaming Xbox than just the pure streaming. And I wonder partially if Microsoft looked at their own data, like how many people are streaming, right? How many people are streaming the games that we've put down at service? and maybe it's too low to justify building this device out. So there you go. If anybody ever finds out what hardware is running inside this thing or the OS, I would love to know. Drop it in the comments below. But as always, my friends, make sure to keep it subscribed here because the BS on this channel is me.